Am I the jerk if I move out of our apartment knowing my fiancé and his mom can't afford it without me? Posted by you/throwaway move away 129. Me, 29F, and my, maybe ex, fiancé, 27M, have been living together for about 1.5 years. My fiancé got his undergraduate degree, worked for a couple of years, and then decided to get an MBA, which is how he ended up in our city. We moved in together after he finished his MBA program. My fiancé is from the Midwest, and his mom has always wanted him to move back. When he told her he was staying here, she was heartbroken. I went to college and got my degree in a STEM field. After I graduated, I got a job with my current company and moved to the city where we currently live. It's a big international company with multiple locations in the US and abroad. I love my job, I like the company I work for, and the pay is pretty good. All in all, a pretty good deal. During COVID, my office shut down, and we all went remote. After COVID, they decided not to reopen this office, so I've been 100% work from home since early 2020. I currently make considerably more than him, mainly because I've been working for 7 years and I'm in tech. I had been living by myself in a 1-bedroom apartment and had my office set up in the living room since it was just me. When we moved in together, we decided to get a 2-bedroom apartment so I could use the extra room as an office. Because of this, I was paying 2/3 of the rent, and he paid 1/3. We split everything else 50-50. The problem started this past May. My fiancé's mom told him she wanted to move to our city to be closer to him. She asked if she could stay with us while she looked for a job and got settled. She's a teacher, so she figured she'd be able to get a teaching job pretty quickly. Because of that, I didn't really mind her staying with us, as I figured it would just be for a couple of months over the summer. Since I thought it would only be for a short time, I moved my office into a corner of our bedroom, and my fiancé bought a bed to put in the second bedroom. The problem is she never applied for any teaching positions and has been living with us for 6 months now. She and I have really been struggling with each other since she moved in. I can't make her understand that I work full-time. She constantly interrupts me while I'm working, which is bad enough, but she even interrupts when I'm on Teams calls. She always asks me to take her places because she doesn't like to drive in our city. She has pretty outdated views on gender roles and constantly gives me a hard time for not doing more around the house and for making my fiancé help with chores, do his own laundry, etc. The constant criticism and insults are really wearing me down. And I hate having my office shoved in a corner of the bedroom. Back in September, I told my fiancé that since it looks like his mom is going to stay a while, we should split the rent 3 ways. He told me she can't afford that since she has to conserve money until she gets a job. I told him I wasn't happy paying extra for a bedroom I can't use, so he finally agreed to a 50-50 split. I can afford to pay the extra, but I hate the idea of funding her lifestyle. Every time I complain about her or the situation, he says he agrees but doesn't know what to do because he can't kick out his mom. And he won't talk to her about the way she treats me or how she behaves. When I ask what the long-term plan is, he just says he doesn't know. I've thought about giving him an ultimatum to tell her she has to leave, but I think he'd just end up resenting me for essentially putting his mom on the street. One of my girlfriends is losing her roommate at the end of February. Our lease renews on June 1st. I'm very strongly considering moving out of our current apartment and moving in with her. I can afford to pay my part of the rent on our current apartment, and also half the rent at my friend's apartment. It's not ideal, but I'm not a big spender, so it's doable. The issue is, if he and his mom aren't able to pay 1/3 of the rent each, there's no way they could cover the whole thing on their own. But I can't live like this anymore, so I'm pretty sure this is what I'll do. I just wanted to see if people thought I'd be the jerk for leaving them like this. Update 5 days later. I posted here last week about the situation I'm in, living with my soon-to-be ex-fiancé and his mom. I started off trying to reply to everyone's comments and keep up, but honestly, I just got completely overwhelmed with all the responses. First off, I want to thank everyone for their feedback and comments, even the ones that were kind of harsh. Actually, probably especially the ones that were kind of harsh. I really needed some tough love to make me realize that I was letting my soon-to-be ex-fiancé and his mom take advantage of me. The more comments I read, the more pissed off I got. Honestly, I think I'm more pissed at myself for allowing this to happen and not advocating for myself more. This past weekend, I got my soon-to-be ex-fiancé alone so we could talk, which was actually harder than it should have been because his mom always tries to tag along when we do anything. Going through all the comments everyone left and the PMs people sent really helped me decide how to approach this. It also brought up a lot of good questions I should have thought of myself. Back to the discussion with my ex, I wanted to give him one more chance to pick us over his mom, not because I thought he would, but because I just wanted to be able to tell myself I gave him the opportunity. I explained again how unhappy I am with the situation, how it's affecting my work because of her constant interruptions, and how uncomfortable and unhappy I am being forced to work out of a corner in our bedroom. I reminded him that until a few months ago, I was paying the majority of the rent, and since I make so much more than him, it's really my salary that keeps us all afloat. I also brought up, again, the way she treats me and talks to me. And he replied the same way he always has. He agrees it's not right how she acts and that it's really uncomfortable for all of us. WTF, I don't care if she's uncomfortable. Previously, I would have dropped it there. But this time, I told him how angry and disappointed I was that he let me pay for 2/3 of the rent when she first moved in and how unfair it is that I'm still paying for half when there are 3 people living there and she is the only one with her own bedroom. His response was the same: she has to conserve money since she doesn't have any income currently. Which brought up the question, where did all her money go when she moved? What money does she use for incidentals? Evidently, when she got divorced, she asked for the divorce after my ex went off to college. It doesn't sound like her husband/ex's dad wanted the divorce. His dad bought her out of the equity in their house. My ex had no idea how much that was or how much is left. But until she moved here, she was working full-time as a teacher and living in a small apartment, so she shouldn't have had to tap into the divorce settlement money much. Other than that, my ex didn't have much insight into her finances beyond what she told him, that she has to conserve money. I told him straight up that I'm moving out before the end of the month. And from now on, I'm only paying 25%. As some commenters pointed out, she has a whole bedroom while I have to share with a man-child, so she should be paying twice as much. After I move out, I'm not paying for anything else, no utilities, no food, nothing other than rent. I have a pretty good idea of what his finances are like, and if he has to pay 75% of the rent all by himself, it's going to take a huge chunk of his net income. After he pays utilities and buys groceries, there won't be anything left for incidentals. Rent was due on the 1st, but it's not late until after the 5th, so he has 2 days to come up with the money. If he doesn't and I end up covering it, I'll reduce the amount I pay in future months. The only reason I'm going to keep paying any of the rent is that even after I move out, I'm still on the hook. I talked to the leasing office, and they explained that since my ex and I signed a single rental agreement together, i.e., one contract we both signed rather than 2 separate contracts, we are both responsible for the rent. They don't care who actually pays, as long as it gets paid. The only alternative would be if he agrees to sign a new lease by himself, or together with his mom. But in all likelihood, he wouldn't be able to pass the credit check on his own, so I'm kind of stuck. I don't think he'll do anything stupid, though, because he's going to need to find somewhere to live after this, and a collection on his credit report wouldn't be good. I also told him that I'm going to find someplace else to work during the day until I move so she can't bother me. My friend, whom I'm moving in with, said I could work at her place during the day since she and her current roommate have in-person 9 to 5s. I took her up on that for now. After living with his mom, I'm not about to overstay my welcome, so I'm going to find some other options to rotate through. Someone suggested checking out the public library, or if it comes to it, I'll get a membership at one of those WeWork type places. Just in case, I brought my important papers, files, and valuables, and my friend is storing them for me until I move in. He really didn't take it well. The surprising thing to me is that he was actually shocked by everything. He seemed genuinely surprised that I wasn't prioritizing his mom. I really got the feeling that he sincerely believed I wanted to take care of her as much as him. He kept saying stuff like, "What about my mom? What am I going to tell her? That's just how she is, but we still need to help her," etc. He asked about our relationship and the engagement. I told him that after I move out, I need some space from him. In a few months, once we've both had time and space to process what happened, if we both agree, we can talk about the relationship. But he'd have to prove that he's going to have my back going forward and will set boundaries with his mom. I told him that just to avoid more drama, but I don't see a future where we're together. I told him he needs to tell his mom because she's not my responsibility or problem, and she'll know something's up when I start moving my stuff out. He hasn't told her what's going on yet, but this weekend, I'm going to start moving things, so he doesn't have much time. My friend's current roommate starts a new job in another state on the 3rd, so realistically, I can probably move in 2 to 3 weeks, depending on when she actually leaves. I don't expect him to do anything bad, other than sulk and complain, but if he does do something stupid or doesn't pay his part of the rent, the ace up my sleeve is that I'll tell the leasing office his mom moved in, which is prohibited in the lease. Honestly, getting evicted would solve a lot of my problems right now, so it's a pretty valid threat, I think. Now that I've mentally and emotionally separated myself from him and his mom, I'm actually looking forward to her reaction when he tells her what's going on. If it gets too ugly, I'll find a cheap Airbnb or hotel or something. I've had some friends, including the one I'm moving in with, offer to let me couch surf for a few weeks, but I just can't do that to someone else. So, that's it. I'm leaving, and I really don't care how that affects them. Relevant comments. Commenter. The thing about him sincerely believing you wanted to take care of mom is pretty standard when someone has an enmeshed relationship with their parent. When you think of a romantic partnership, you think of two people working together to build a life for themselves. When the enmeshed person thinks of a partnership, he thinks of having someone with whom to share the burden of his enmeshed relationship. And the truly sad thing is that he probably cannot perceive how skewed his perspective is. His normal meter didn't break, it never worked in the first place. It's sitting in the back of a closet, buried under a bunch of old coats. Ops response. I mean, that explains a lot. But honestly, that is just so effing sad. That's essentially saying he's broken but doesn't even know he's broken. So he'll just go from relationship to relationship, never really understanding why women keep leaving him. Absent his mom, he's really a great guy, but nobody will ever want to stay with him if his mom is always going to come first. Commenter 2. You already let her stay well past the agreed upon time, and they should be grateful for that instead of being mad that you're finally putting your foot down. Did they honestly have no other plan? Was this supposed to continue indefinitely? They're about to get a rude awakening, but it's no less than they deserve. Ops response. That is a great question. I have no idea what the long-term plan was. Every time I brought it up with my ex, he would say things like, we'll have to make sure she applies for next school year, but he would never talk to her to tell her that. Plus, even if she does get a job for next school year, that isn't until September. And realistically, it would be another month before she starts getting a paycheck. There is no way I'd stay in this situation for another 8 months, I would end up in prison. Commenter 3. To clarify, she has enough money from the divorce settlement for her own personal expenses but won't even pay her share of the rent? Ops response. That is exactly how I interpreted what he said. I don't know what her grand plan was. She's in her mid to late 50s, I think. So if she was planning to mooch off me and her son until she could officially retire, it would be another 5 to 10 years. I don't know how she expected that to happen. Second update 8 days later. Hey everyone, I've been getting a lot of requests for an update, so I wanted to let everyone know how it went when my ex's mom found out about me not covering all the rent and moving out. Last week, I started working out of my friend's apartment, the one I'm moving in with, so I didn't see my ex's mom on Monday. On Tuesday around lunch, she sent me a text asking where I was. I told her I was working and that I'd be home late that night. She replied that my ex told her I wasn't going to be contributing as much, so she had to loan him money for rent. That wasn't a surprise to me, so I just replied with a thumbs up emoji. I had plans with my friend and her roommate, who I'm also friends with, to go out for dinner and then get some drinks. By the time I got home, it was after midnight, and my ex's mom was already asleep. The fun started Wednesday morning. I was getting ready to go to work at my friend's place when my ex's mom stopped me and said we needed to discuss my financial situation. Then she went on a whole tirade about having to cover my part of the rent, me making foolish choices by going out to dinner when I couldn't even pay rent, being irresponsible with money, and inconsiderate of the impact it had on others, blah blah blah. She went on to say that if she was going to have to pay my share of the rent, she expected me to do a better job of keeping on top of chores and keeping the apartment clean and organized. I told her I was moving out, since obviously my ex hadn't told her yet. She seemed, I don't know, pleased with herself. All she had to say was, maybe that's for the best. When I got home that night, she immediately wanted to talk. She said that instead of me moving out, we could get a bigger apartment, and that she'd be willing to help by paying the difference between a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom. Then we could go back to the arrangement my ex and I had before she moved in, me paying 2/3 of the rent and him paying 1/3. Honestly, when she said this, I think my brain vapor locked. She was making it sound like she was doing us a favor by offering to pay the increase in rent. Apparently, this manchild, who tells his mom literally every single thing about our lives and relationship, hadn't bothered to tell her how much I was actually contributing. It seems like once she discovered my ex wasn't paying for everything like she thought, she wasn't as excited about me moving out. I tried to be polite and told her I had already given notice to our apartment complex that I was moving out at the end of the month and had already committed to moving in with my friend. She kept pushing the issue, saying that if she was willing to pay the difference, I should just stay because that would really be best for everyone. By then, I was getting annoyed and told her that because of the way she had been acting and treating me, I had no interest in living with her anymore. That's when she hit me with the best line of this whole dumpster fire. She said she was worried I was taking advantage of her son and that if we had told her about our financial arrangement, she would have been more understanding of why I wasn't keeping up with the apartment. I told her maybe a good lesson from this is to try being nice to everyone in the future, not just the people you think can help you. And I asked her why she didn't help out more, since she wasn't doing anything productive all day. She did not like either of those comments, and things got pretty hostile, with both of us yelling at each other. And to be fair, we both said some pretty awful things to each other. Finally, I told her I was going to inform the rental office that she had been living there against the lease agreement, because getting evicted would be worth it to see her living on the street. Then I grabbed my laptop and went to my friend's place. I didn't even bother packing an overnight bag. The next afternoon, Thursday, my ex texted me and said he had added his mom to the lease, effective the first of the month, and that she and his dad, I have no idea how that poor man got roped into this, would pay half the rent, while my ex would pay the other half. I confirmed with the property manager that I was off the lease and had no further obligation. I got it in an email, so I have a record. I put in disconnect orders for the utilities under my name and told him to call and set up accounts under his name. I'm going to lose the damage deposit. It goes to whoever is living there when the lease ends, but it's a small price to pay to be free. On the way home, I stopped and got a bunch of boxes to pack my stuff. She was pretty hostile when I got home, and when she saw how much I was taking, she got worse. I ended up taking Friday off to finish packing, and on Saturday, I got some friends to help me move my stuff to my new place. I'm going to pay my friends some rent for the next 2 weeks until their current roommate moves out. They didn't want me to, but I'm not going to stay in someone's home and not contribute. If nothing else, living with my ex and his mom taught me that. Last night, my ex and I got together and talked for the first time since Saturday. He said his mom is staying until June when the lease is up, and then she's moving back to their hometown. According to him, she just really didn't like living here, and that's why she didn't try to find a job. Then he asked how long of a break I thought we should take. A few commenters gave me a hard time for stringing him along, so I was brutally honest and told him I could not be with someone who allowed others to treat me the way he allowed his mom to treat me, and that I hoped he learned to stand on his own and establish some boundaries. He looked like he was going to cry and just got up and left. As far as I'm concerned, this whole thing is over and done. I'm going to call it a learning experience and be glad I found out how awful my ex's mom is before we got married. The thing that amazes me is the amount of damage this woman leaves in her wake and how utterly oblivious she is. She destroyed our engagement and relationship, is leaving my ex in a much worse financial situation, and pushed back her ex-husband's retirement, by who knows how many years, since he now likely has to pay off the mortgage, or second mortgage, he had to get to pay her half of the equity. And she made my life hell for 6+ months. And yet, she's walking away completely unscathed. According to my ex, she's going back to her hometown and picking up her old teaching job. I'm thinking about visiting my parents next week and working from their house. I want to tell them how boring and undramatic they are, and how I'm so grateful for that. And that I love them for it, lol. Relevant comments. Commenter. It sounds like your ex wanted to save his pride and avoid disappointing his mother by concealing how much of the expenses you were covering, and he happily threw you under the bus to do so. Even when confronted with what his mother was doing to you as a result of his lies, he kept it up. His mother was damaging to your relationship, but it was mostly him who wrecked it by betraying you like that. I'm just glad you found out the truth about the kind of person he is before you got married. Ops response. I do think this is a lot of it. She made a really big deal about him getting an MBA, and I think she assumed he was going to be making a huge salary right out of the gate. To be fair, he probably will make good money in the future, but he needs to put in his time and work for it. I think he was afraid or embarrassed to tell her what he really made. Plus, he has student loans for his MBA to pay off, so he's going to have a few lean years. But we all do, so there's nothing wrong with it, other than it didn't match her expectations. Commenter 2. Hell yes, glad you got out. He needed to hear the harsh truth about not coming back to him. He did this to himself when he didn't back you up. Who wants to be with a spineless jellyfish? Ops response. Honestly, I was intentionally kind of a beach. He's complicit in torching our relationship, but I did love him. I was worried that if I wasn't blunt with him, he'd try to talk me into trying again, and I wanted to close that door for good. What did Op take moving out? Pretty much everything in the kitchen was mine. When we moved in together, he was fresh out of grad school and didn't have much of anything. He wasn't quite as bad as Kate Bishop in Hawkeye, 1 plate, 1 fork, 1 spoon, etc., but it was close lol. Everything in the second bedroom/my office was mine, except for the bed and his mom's clothes, a chest of drawers, some shelves, and a small TV. The couch was his, the bed was mine. I let him buy it from me, mainly because I didn't want to deal with moving it. Plus, some assorted small furniture and stuff. The apartment is kind of barren now lol. Maybe mommy will help him decorate. About her ex's dad and all of this. From the way my ex talked, I don't think his dad wanted to get a divorce. It makes me wonder if he thinks this might be a way to convince her to go back to him. I can't imagine why he would want her to, but it's the only explanation I can think of.